What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Have some fun stuff to get into. There's actually an article you guys sent me over and over again for the past 2 days, and I wasn't too sure about it. It has to do with Sony. We're going to go over that with the PS5 timetable kind of being a bit confusing online right now. We're going to talk about what was said at this conference that they had for investors with Sony. First, we're going to get in some of the smaller bits of news. The Mario Tennis Aces demo is live, or at least it's the download that will let you play in the online tournament that is coming up next week. So it's going to be like the 1st of June to the 3rd. And a lot of us were hoping, because there was a lot of news going around, that there would possibly be offline play, maybe ahead of the tournament. Doesn't look to be the case. Looks like you actually have to communicate to the servers and then receive data back so that you can play online and then also play offline against the computer opponents. What you can do right now is you can kind of go through and see the different shots and minor tutorials and stuff like topspin, lobs, slicing, serving. All that stuff is there, but you really can't do much outside of that. We're just at this point waiting for the servers to at least go online so that we can play online. Detroit Become Human also came out today. A lot of reviews went live, and it looks like it's sitting at an okay score. Metacritic score of 80 right now. I say okay because there seem to be reviewers on like the low end, and then on the high end. Users are very spread right now too. It's definitely a game that some probably really like, and then others kind of see it as like I guess an interactive movie almost, right? It is an adventure game. It's not really an action game. It's like an interactive movie adventure style game. But apparently the plot is interesting to sci-fi fans, so I'm gonna check it out because it at least sounds interesting from what they're talking about. I guess if you want a good review overall, like a very in-depth review, go check out Dreamcast guy Max. He has a review for it, and kind of see, I guess, how it is for what you would want to play. Ubisoft also gave us an idea of what we can expect from them at E3. See, originally we were figuring we knew what they were going to show us, and then Walmart of Canada shows up and throws a big monkey wrench in the whole thing. We knew there'd be surprises, but they did at least give us an idea of some of the stuff we can see. We know about the basics, of course, Tom Clancy's Division 2, Beyond Good and Evil 2, For Honor, apparently they're going to keep that going, I guess, Skull and Bones, Starlink, and then Transference. And then, of course, they said a bunch of other surprises are also going to be there, unannounced surprises, which we kind of figure at this point Splinter Cell is going to be there in some capacity. Well, I don't really know what else they might have for us. We'll see, but it is exciting, obviously, when we get around E3 time, and we're pretty much being told there will be some surprises there that we might like. I'm just ready for a new Splinter Cell. I think everybody is. So let's get to E3 and see what they have for us with that. So guys, with all that out of the way, let's get started. So Sunset Overdrive has been a game that it's on the Xbox. You can pick it up. It's a fun game. It was just never like an amazing game that everybody was rushing out to buy. It sold okay on the Xbox One system, and that's kind of where it's been this whole time. That's actually one of the few games, guys, that is not also on the PC, and it's specifically exclusive to the Xbox console. Well, that actually might be ending soon, as a Korean ratings board actually published that as it going to the PC. They got rated for the PC, and generally these ratings occur kind of ahead of time for when they're actually going to go to that platform. The PC version would make a lot of sense. It would give that game a second life, if you will, and then it also could give us maybe an Xbox One X patch. Who knows what they'll do there, but I have a feeling the settings will be pretty robust on the PC version, so why wouldn't they do something like that? But this is good, at least for the game. Like I said, it didn't have the best sales on the Xbox, and honestly, they'll only get more sales, obviously, on the PC. But this does take away one of the few, I guess, true console exclusives for the Xbox. Although now, like I said, Microsoft is trying to sell more of an ecosystem rather than just a system. So it doesn't really matter as much to them. And if it kind of shows up on just the Windows Store, then why would they care? If it goes to Steam, that's a little more, I don't really know how much money Microsoft gets from that as opposed to, obviously, on the Windows Store. But still, PC gamers, I'm sure, would at least try the game out. And honestly, the game's pretty fun. I think it's worth a shot. Now, Korean's rating boards have done things like leaked like the screenshots for Tekken 7 back in the day. And then they also leaked, you may remember Gravity Rush Remastered on the PS4. They also leaked that out. So they have leaked stuff that has come completely true. So more than likely, we'll get an announcement probably in the next few weeks, maybe even E3. Next up, let's talk about Resident Evil 7 Cloud Edition on the Nintendo Switch. It did launch, and it launched to lukewarm reception, I guess. Here's the thing. This game is designed specifically for use in Japan, but because of the nature of the Switch where it's region free, anyone can download it off of the eShop and take a shot at it. So depending on where you are, you're going to have a different experience. That's just kind of the way it is with what they're doing here with like the cloud streaming technology they're using. They pretty much have it set to one region because they specifically have servers set up for that one region. If you try to do it outside of there, well, your experience is probably not going to be the best, and that's what you've been seeing. I try to do it. I was more surprised that they have an English option, because maybe that means they are looking to bring it other places. They had like every language in that game, so there's a good chance that it could be going to multiple regions if it works out in Japan. But I will say right now it seems to run well in Japan. Like, they have a lot of there's a lot of comparison videos out there, and it looks fairly good. There were some tests about the latency, and you can see noticeable latency, but it doesn't look like it'll affect something as slow as a Resident Evil. Maybe it would affect like a fighting game, as I've seen with the PlayStation Now experience, where, yeah, you're not playing a fighting game with that, I'm gonna tell you that now, but something like a slower game like a Resident Evil, like an RPG, maybe some slower shooters, you'd be able to get away with it. But we are still kind of far away from, I think personally, cloud streaming being something you can use in competition or stuff like that. We'll still, at least for now, prefer our local machines over being streamed from the internet. And then, of course, you get the spotty internet connections. It's just, to me, it's better to have it in front of you, have it in your machine, or have it downloaded to your hard drive and just play straight up. But at least for now, it seems like the test is going well in Japan, just not outside of Japan, although they're not really trying to test outside of Japan, so they probably don't care about that. Next up, let's talk about Sony. Let's talk about the PlayStation 4, because this was a very interesting topic that went around. See, a little while ago, people were sending me an article over and over again. I think every few hours I had this sent to me on Twitter, even emailed to me, that Sony and John Codera made a statement that the PS4 was going to be around for at least another 3 years. And that was surprising to a lot of people, because that would make this generation the longest console generation that we've had, and that's longer than the previous one that was said to be too long by a lot of people. People wanted new systems, I think, back in like 2011, and it went on until 2013, and a lot of people just said that's too long. And here's where things get kind of interesting. See, the reason people were saying that is because the Wall Street Journal published an article, of course behind a paywall, because, you know, why not? But the Wall Street Journal published an article that specifically says that John Codera said that they are going to be pushing the PS4, continuing on with it, and there wouldn't be a successor for another 3 years. And a lot of places picked it up. Polygon, I think Kotaku, a lot of places picked it up and kind of ran with that article. The only issue is, now other places are coming out saying that the Wall Street Journal has it completely wrong, and they completely misquoted John Codera. In fact, the way that they misquoted him actually changes the entirety of that statement and what it actually means. In fact, you have Bloomberg pretty much showing up and saying that the Wall Street Journal is, I guess, wrong. They completely disagree with them. Check this out. This was actually over on Twitter saying, "Do not agree with Wall Street Journal here. I also interviewed him, and he did not imply PS5 is 3 years away. Besides, Sony is forecasting a big drop in PlayStation profit by March 2021. That implies big cost due to new hardware launch. I still see PS5 launching fall of 2020. So Bloomberg says that's not at all what he meant or what he said directly. In fact, when I looked at the Wall Street Journal article, they didn't really have a direct quote that was backing up their title. So I'm not really sure. I read through it a couple times. I said, wow, he never once says that, you know, the PS4 is going to stick around or be their main focus for the next 3 years, and the PS5 won't show up for another 3 years. What he says is, we are going to support the PS4 for at least another 3 years. And what a lot of people seem to forget is a lot of these systems, whether it's the 360 and the PS3 or the PS2 and the original Xbox, there's a crossover gap, usually of about a year, where new games were released for the old system despite the new systems being out. It happens all the time. I mean, we had FIFA 14 on the PS2. How long of a gap is that? But what I'm saying is, they are looking to support the PS4 for at least another 3 years. That makes sense. That doesn't necessarily mean that the PS5 won't be there in that support of 3 years, and that's exactly what Bloomberg is trying to get across as well. I do think fall of 2020 is probably around when they will be releasing the PS5, but Nintendo did also show that you can release it technically whenever you want, as long as you have a big enough fan base. So maybe Sony recognized that. Maybe it shows up early 2021. Maybe it shows up early 2020. I think the earliest, though, you'll see it is probably fall of 2019. Don't expect it to show up at all this year, and don't even expect it to show up early in 2019. If you bought a PS4 now, you're safe probably for at least another 2 years. According to John Cadera, you're safe for at least another 3 years. They're going to continue supporting it with games, and we already know some of the games showing up. As for which game will be the last one, Death Stranding or Last of Us 2, we'll have to see about that one. They also talked about, which is very interesting, quick aside, they also talked about the Vita. I couldn't believe it, by the way, when they mentioned the Vita. I said, wow, I thought they would just forget about that because, they want to kind of shuffle that off to the side so investors forget about the Vita, but they decided to talk about it. And they actually said that they're exploring options around the Vita, options around what else they can do with it going forward, and if there is, I guess, a handheld market for them. I don't know. I don't really know why Sony would go back into the handheld market because they botched the Vita big time after coming off, honestly, what was a very successful system with the PSP. Almost 80 million, I think, PSPs were out there. That could have had something to do with the hacking scene as the attach rates were way off, by the way, but still, they sold a lot of them. I don't know if they should get back into the handheld market with the Vita because even if they mimic the Switch, they would still be technically competing with the PS5 or the PS4. It's weird. The best bet, though, I will say, is to do something with cell phones and maybe release some cell phone games with some of their IPs that they have. Maybe they do, I don't know, a Last of Us mobile game or maybe they actually move NAC over to mobile phones. I don't know, but that's probably a better bet for them in terms of actually making money in the mobile space. And our last bit of news, let's talk about those classic systems. You know what I'm talking about, right? The retro compilation systems, the NES Classic, Super Nintendo Classic, the Genesis Terrible AT Games Classic, the PlayStation Classic. This is something we've talked about before, right? What's a classic system you'd like to see that hasn't even been talked about or thought of? A lot of people say, you know what, I'd like to see one of those little mini systems be a PlayStation system. N64 system is another one, which honestly is probably going to become more of a reality as we go forward here with some of the trademarks. But the PlayStation Classic is something I think a lot of us would like to see. A lot of us have fond memories of the PS1, right? I mean, there's a lot of cool games on there. You can say Final Fantasies, Crash Bandicoots. You could pull from a wealth of Tony Hawk games, right? Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 or 2, or I guess you could even say 3, although 3 was better on the PS2. Anyway, yeah, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 on there, that'd be awesome. But can you imagine a PlayStation 1 Classic? Well, according to a couple of sources now, it appears Sony might actually be looking into that. I couldn't believe it myself either. I mean, it makes sense. It would be easy. I think some of the licensing would be a little challenging, but apparently, again, according to John Cadera, they're talking about this internally, and this comes from us Manton Web, and this was actually translated by comicbook.com. So I was a little sketchy with that because, they're translating it, but they're not saying it's absolutely a thing right now, but they're saying they're discussing it internally, and it makes sense because the other class systems have been successful, so why not? Why wouldn't you go with a PlayStation Classic? And I would love to see this because there's a lot of cool stuff they could put on there. And honestly, if it's like an $80 system and it comes with a vintage-looking DualShock controller and a little mini setup for a PlayStation, yeah, I'm in for that, absolutely. I'll go pre-order it or pick it up wherever, and I'll have a great time. That through HDMI, a very clean-looking picture for relative to what, 3D was like back then. It wasn't the best, I'll say that now. But yeah, I'd be all in for that, absolutely. So let me know what you guys think about the PlayStation Classic, and what are some games you would like to see on that system. There's a massive library on the PS1, so hey, let me know what it would take to get you guys to buy in on a PlayStation Classic down in the comments. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, guys. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave a bunch of comments down below about everything we talked about today. Whether it is the PS4's lifespan, do you want another year, do you want 2 years, or do you want the full 3 and you don't want to hear about the PS5 until 2022 because you just bought a PS4. Listen, if you bought a PS4 now, you've been missing out for a while, so go back and start picking up some games. There's a lot of stuff there already before we even get into things like Spider-Man, obviously, Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima. There's a lot of games coming. There's a lot of games that have already come out for you to go check out, so have a blast. Do that. And also let me know what you think about the PS1 Classic. I am thoroughly interested in that and would love to see what that would look like and get maybe perfect replicas of the old school PlayStation controllers with the analog sticks. I want the DualShock controller, the first one, not the little skinny, tiny little I wasn't a fan of that little PS1 controller. The DualShock is where it's at. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a great weekend. Stop by Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time for Spawncast. I'll see you guys back here bright and early Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time for Newswave.